Getting help for elderly parents. Next. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop it every week, folks. At some point, caring for an aging parent is something many of us will deal with. But when is it time to get outside assistance? And what are the symptoms? Attorney and certified life transition coach Lori Giles makes a return visit to help you through this stressful process. In our second segment, it's the quiet before the political storm in November. Current Capitol Bureau Chief Chris Keating tells us the very latest on the political posturing and positioning in Connecticut. Then we'll wrap things up with Waterbury author Felix Manuel Rodriguez, who has written a book about how his fascination with Ali and how it has made him a better father. But first, tips on caring for elderly parents, a return visit, a return engagement, encore. You did such a great job last time. Lori Giles, author, certified life transition coach. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am absolutely thrilled to be here.
We're honored to have you here. This is a big issue, the issue of elderly parents, right? What happens with the script gets flipped on people, right? All of a sudden, children taking care of parents, and many are very unprepared. It can be very traumatic, right?
Stan, frankly, most people are ill-prepared and unprepared to take care of aging parents. It's a very tough situation. You're going from child to caretaker. And how do you get your parents to understand that, yes, they do need some care? So it's one of those issues that is so tough for people to get through.
And truth be told, a lot of parents, a lot of children don't like taking care of elderly parents. We all know in the family there are those who are the natural caretakers and those who don't like dealing with it for a number of reasons. Maybe they had issues with mom or dad, or simply can't deal with seeing mom or dad in a deteriorated situation. Talk about that.
Well, it's very important for families to sit down as soon as possible in the process and figure out who's going to do what. Delineate the roles, because you're absolutely right. Some people are just not hands-on people, and some people, for example, are not good with taking care of the finances or the legal aspects. So let people work within their roles and don't expect more than someone is able to give.
Let's talk about some symptoms. You know, you're out there, mom and dad are doing okay, they're getting older. At what point, when do the red flags begin to develop when you say, this is a little bit unusual? What kind of things should you be looking for when it's time to have that conversation?
I'll tell you, the things probably happen long before we realize that they're happening. So if you go into your parents' house and the lights are off and it's 8 o'clock at night, there's a possibility that they didn't pay the bill. Is there some financial mismanagement going on? Or are they falling? Are they unable to cook? Are there hygiene issues? All of those things that make you say, wow, there's something just not right. Listen to your gut.
How do you separate those senior moments from issues where you say there's a problem here? Because, you know, you get older, you start forgetting, even young folks forget.
Exactly.
So when do you not overreact to every senior moment where it's just an honest, gee, they're a little older and they're not as sharp, versus there's a problem here?
When there are ongoing issues, when the bills are not being paid, or their hygiene issues are ongoing, or if they're driving someplace that they know that they should be very familiar with and they're getting lost every time they go there. Those kind of things, the ongoing, the very continuous things you want to be aware of.
Hygiene, an indication what? That they're just not as attentive, apathy? What does the hygiene tell you?
Either that they are just not as attentive, or that they're unable to get in and out of a tub, unable to do laundry, all of those kind of things. So that's really a red flag that you should really be aware of.
And you mentioned before financial planning. If you notice that the books aren't being balanced, if the bills aren't being paid, again, these are more than just senior moments. If it's a persistent problem, then it is a sign that maybe they are slipping a little bit. Right?
Absolutely.
All right, so now when do you go from that now to actually caring for parents? When you move from the symptoms to, okay, you move from various stages. They're living alone or living with each other, to getting some help inside the house, to, gee, there's a real problem and now you need round-the-clock attention. Let's deal with when do you begin having a conversation about what to do?
Stan, you need to have the conversation as soon as possible. My brother and I started having these conversations with my parents 20 years ago because it's so much...
While they were still cogent, right?
Absolutely. They were still both working and et cetera.
How difficult is that? Hey, Mom and Dad, let's talk about the time of sending you into a nursing home, or what? That's a very awkward conversation, right?
It's a very awkward conversation, but it's much easier to talk about what ifs than what is.
So what do you say?
Just Absolutely. Sometimes it's very easy to have those conversations when someone that they know has passed away or is aging, or when their own parents are aging. Start bringing it up slowly, and the more time you have, the better off you're going to be.
So, G, what would you want if this happened? Hypothetically, if this happened to you, what would you want us to do?
I recommend having a what-if talk, and talk about all of the what-ifs, from is going into a nursing home acceptable care? Would you want to stay in your home? What type of funeral arrangements do you want? Families fight
More
over...
of a conversation over breakfast, right? It's a tough conversation.
It's a conversation that you just have to be very compassionate with, but you have to have. So many people don't have the conversation and pay for it later.
All right, so you had that the what-if conversation first, then now the roles. Family, very important here, right? That family members know their roles. A lot of dissension can develop when mom or dad become ill. One sibling takes on the primary role. Another sibling is off, not really wanting to deal with it. All of a sudden there's tension, there's stress. So how do you define these roles? How do you decide who's a caregiver and who has assigned roles? How do you do this?
Well, Stan, a lot of those roles have already been established. Think about when you have a family gathering. There's someone who organizes the gathering. There's someone who actually does the hands-on cooking. And there's someone who I call the runner in the family. They run in time for dinner and they run out and they're not going to do anything. Don't expect that person to be the person who's going to be the hands-on caregiver. So look at what people are already doing and try to fit them in those roles.
Resentment, though, how do you deal with the resentment factor? If you have someone who is that hands-on giver and someone who's the one who likes to kind of pop in and out, how do you deal with that person who is taking on more than their fair share and begins to resent the situation?
And that happens so frequently. And the key really is to have conversations, continual conversations. And if you see someone is getting upset, start having the conversation. Alleviate the issues. Figure out really what works for everyone. Don't expect more from your siblings than they can produce.
What about those siblings who don't want to produce? What do you say to them? For those siblings who just say, I can't deal with this. I'll help, I'll send money, I'll send a check. I can't deal with mom or dad in this situation. It's too depressing for me to get involved in it.
And it's one of those things where you just have to accept their own boundaries. You have to respect and accept people's boundaries. And if they're only able to donate financially and they don't want to be hands-on caregivers, accept that and work within that. The sibling relationship is so much more important than fighting over who's going to take mom or dad to the doctor.
Health issues for the caregiver. A lot of times that primary caregiver or person ends up getting sick themselves because they're not taking care of themselves. They're working 24/7, working a job, taking care of their parents, and all of a sudden they're wearing down. What happens when the caregiver now becomes emotionally distraught and begins to have their own health issues?
And that's a huge problem. And that's, from the beginning, you have to step back and take time for yourself. Don't let your parents' aging become all-consuming of every other aspect of your life. Don't let it overtake your relationships, your relationship with your children, with your career. You still have a life that has to go on. Don't let it become all-consuming. And that's what people really have to tell themselves and give themselves permission to be able to step back and say, I can only do this. You have to set boundaries as to how much you can and cannot do for your parents or anyone else for that matter that you're caring for.
The name of your book again is?
What Now? A Guide to Aging Parents.
All right, we'll pop it up on the screen for the folks there. What now? Say it again. Buy the book, folks. What is it again?
What Now? A Guide to Your Aging Parents'
Journey. All right, so they have it on the screen there. Save me from having to butcher the title, but thanks for having you. Good to have you here. Important topic again with this, right?
Absolutely. People need to do it. Get it done.
Yeah, because it's going to, sooner or later, probably you'll be dealing with it whether you want to or not.
You absolutely will be.
Right, or you'll have a relative or a friend who is dealing with it.
Most people I know are going through it.
All right. Lori Giles, folks, she is our life transition coach. Hope to have her back again. When we come back, we'll talk to current Capitol Bureau Chief Chris Keating and get his thoughts on the latest political posturing and positioning in Connecticut as the historic November elections approach. You are watching The Stan Simpson Show. Don't go away.